Alright. If you've read the title, you know what we're doing already. It looks like this is part one. So I might do multiple or I might continue later. Let's get into it.
Hello.
It's hello.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello there.
Welcome back to the Space School.
What was that? What was that?
Today we're doing What If Earth Was in Star Wars, part 1 of 3. Before we begin this video, special thanks to our patrons, voice actors, and everyone else part of my team. Want a chance to win a free lightsaber in the next giveaway? Watch the end of the video, I'll tell you exactly how you can win. Our story begins in the ancient world on a small blue planet in the mid-rim. It was...
So ancient Egypt? I'm guessing because of the different structure type stuff.
part of the Copernican system. In the desert, there was a small kingdom divided by two powers. In the southernmost power, there was Heracleopolis, and in the northernmost power, there was Thebes. The current
Egypt.
divide of the first intermediate period was the transition of powers from a fragile monarchy to the people. The small region had just begun its expansion into empire building, the collection of slaves, and the construction of massive structures.
I'm gonna turn this down. This is too much for my ears.
Were in the plans for the coming years. That was until a small vessel crash landed. Out of the ship came an assortment of individuals. These individuals had much more technology than those from the small globe in the Copernican system. The leader of the group wore armor and robes, and he stood very tall. His name was Master Rego Thif, and he was leading a group of Jedi across the galaxy to escape the Sith Lord who had just conquered the Jedi Temple on Coruscant.
Order
Rego had a group of
66.
Jedi Knights with him, and under him was his personal Padawan, Mione Skyko.
Or is it
Master Thief
Mal-
felt terrible for his
what's
student.
his name? Sith
She was under
Empire.
extraordinary amount of stress. Everyone was, but Mione was in the middle of her trials when the Jedi Temple was
Not
attacked.
Revan.
Master Thief was leading
Malchus,
member on the
that's it,
Jedi High
Malchus.
Council, and he was under the understanding that he needed to get as many Jedi out of the temple before it fell. Many
Yep,
Jedi
this
had
is
different
definitely
locations
Malchus.
to go to. Master Satil Shan was
Who's
directed
he?
to go to
Is
Alderaan
she
in the
single?
core, but he recently lost contact with her and her squad,
She
being
looks
under
nice.
the assumption that Lord Malgus of the Sith invaded Alderaan and burnt the planet to the ground.
Who's that old
Master
man?
Thief couldn't imagine anything worse happening to Alderaan. It was such a lovely
Yeah,
world.
Alderaan is a nice
Master
place.
Thief told his student and the other knights to wait in the vessel while he and his astromech droid T-791 investigated the local area. The Jedi and the few Republic troops that landed on the planet would set up a perimeter on the nearby river until Master Thief returned. The Jedi Master and his astromech found a dirt trail that spun around the sand towards the gates of the towering city. It was by no means a modern city, by Coruscant standards at the very least, but the architecture was incredible. T-791 beeped at her owner, and Master Thief nodded his head. The little droid informed him that she was picking up no signal on the radars. Thief noted that
I
it was
wonder
oddly
why.
peculiar that there wasn't any signals coming from the planet. Most if not a few planets in the mid-rim had a civilized population that was able to travel throughout the galaxy, with representation in Coruscant. Though Master Thief noted that he never heard of the system until they arrived on it. While they walked forwards,
Why
they
does he
noticed
have a
group of
lightsaber
people
stab in
carrying
his
massive
chest?
blocks towards the city.
This game,
Oh no. Oh no.
you're not
It's an
ready
ad.
for
It's
it.
an ad. It's an ad.
Behind them were a couple of men with whips cracking them away whenever someone faltered in line. The Jedi instincts inside of Master
Slavery.
Thief kicked in, but he
Oh my
stopped
gosh.
himself, informing 91 that they needed to get inside the city gates and learn about where they were and if they could
Oh
hold
my
refuge here
gosh.
until they could return
Oh my gosh. I didn't realize. That's sad.
to Coruscant. Thief knew that the Sith would likely arrive to the system, especially if they had no issue besieging the planet of Alderaan. Surely the Sith would be here to do the same. Once the slaves disappeared to the city, Master Thief and 91 made their way in front of the city, to which an armed guard came out to greet them. 91 translated everything they said into Galactic Common so that Thief could understand what they were saying to him. Essentially, they were confused as to why someone was wearing material that only upper-class citizens were allowed to wear, when he clearly wasn't an upper-class citizen.
Yeah, peasant.
Assuming that a slave had risen up and stolen from someone. Thief responded back, telling them that he wasn't from
Slave
the system,
revol-
and that he was here on
revolting?
purpose
Why is
of
that a bad
peace.
thing?
The elite guard didn't take too kindly to this,
Except for
assuming that
the
he was
case of
insulting
Haiti,
Ra,
but-
one of their numerous gods. Master Thief stepped back as the
Ra,
elite
Ra,
guard raised their
Ripperty,
spears.
God is
They were
great, is that
already on
machine.
edge because of the astromech, having never seen something so high-tech before. Being that Thief was still standing tall, they still perceived him as a threat. Thif ignited his lightsaber, and the guard was left in shock. One of the
All
guardsmen
Egyptians
swung
are
for
like
Master
this.
Thif, and the Jedi Master stepped aside and cut the spear into pieces before raising his blade.
Before I said all Egyptians was like this, I mean that from experience. I actually knew an Egyptian. He stole my Pokemon card, or one of them. But it doesn't really matter, it wasn't worth but 5 cents.
Into his formed 4 stance. The guardsman panicked and ran away. Thif looked at the droid, shrugging his shoulders, suggesting that this would be more difficult than he would like it to be. The heat of the desert was unbearable,
We're from
as
Earth,
Thif
we're
and 91
stubborn.
made their way into Thebes, getting an assortment of looks from everyone. 91 beeped at Thif, and informed him
cool
that the Palace of
astromech.
Power seemed to be directly ahead, based on its structure and its prominence in the city itself. Thif agreed, and the two of them made their way there. They were going to make attempts to make friends with these locals, so that they could defend
good
them
idea.
in case the Sith came. For the most part, Master Thif believed that they could return to this planet after they defeated the Sith and help it into the future, but that would come later. When they arrived at the palace, an army of men presented themselves forward, ready for a fight. Thif bit his lip. He saw the same guardsmen from the front gate with some governmental officials. Thif ignited his lightsaber once more and told 91 to translate what he said, telling the guardsmen that he wasn't there for war. He was here because this planet was in severe danger. The Egyptians looked around at each other, as a few governmental officials stepped forward, asking what danger. Thif explained as best he could, telling them that he was a Jedi. They were defenders of justice and bringers of peace in the galaxy. The Sith attacked them on Coruscant and destroyed everything. The Jedi have been separated throughout the galaxy, and because of this separation, the Sith had been burning down civilizations to the ground and hunting the Jedi. If the Egyptians didn't allow the Jedi to stay and defend them, then the Sith would do the same thing to them. The Egyptians took in this information and then told Master Thif that if he could provide proof of their struggle, then they would be allowed to stay in Thebes for the
That's
time
nice.
being. They could take up refuge with them. Thif nodded his head and turned on his transmitter, requesting Mioni to bring a handful of troops to their location with some holograms, then asking her to send Commander Nej Vondun and the rest of the Jedi and the Republic troopers around the globe to see if any other civilizations existed. If they did, he wanted them to make contact with them and report their findings. Eventually, Mioni Skyko and the troops would arrive. She saw her master surrounded by guardsmen, but the situation seemed to be under his control. Mioni gave her master the hologram they received from Tython in the destruction of the Jedi on that planet. She also gave him hologram of some of the damage done to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant before they left. The group went inside the main building, and they showed off the details of their feat. The Egyptians were blown away, to say the least. Sure, they figured out a lot with so little technology on their own world, but the technology they were witnessing before their very eyes wasn't even within centuries of being discovered. It was several thousands of years away of being discovered. The Egyptians told the Jedi that the Republic troops were welcome to stay, under one condition, the condition that they be given the technology and shown how to utilize it for productivity. Master Thif didn't see an issue with this. He could feel the fact that the Force was strong here on Earth too. This planet was rich with its connection to the Force, and there was a chance that there would be children of the Force present on the planet as well. Thif also believed that Earth deserved a shot at being a part of the Republic, though it had a lot of modernization it needed to go through. Without said modernization, Earth would never be able to successfully trade intergalactically. Rego noted that the people of Earth would need to unlearn their slaving techniques as it wasn't supported by the government of the Republic, but he believed that to be something that would be discussed in the future. For now, Rego needed to make sure his troops and the Jedi got themselves situated. While they did that, Master Thif and the Thebes officials walked around the town, so that Thif could understand the key locations within the city. Thif was scouting out because if the Sith came and landed remotely near them, then he'd have to evacuate the city to Heracropolis. Across the globe, the Republic troopers would land in the ancient city of Zhengzhou, only to be greeted by the Emperor Tai Kang. The Emperor was much more initially welcoming than the guardsmen in Egypt, as if he'd been expecting them, but the Emperor connected with the Jedi quicker than they realized because they were interested in the Emperor's brother more than him. The brother was very obviously connected with the Force, but once the Jedi got over the brother's connection to the Force, they realized that the Emperor himself was very deeply connected to the Force as well. For months, the Jedi would begin to integrate themselves on Earth, because they were still unable to leave. During this time, the Jedi were able to connect Thebes to Zhengzhou, and to the rest of the Shai dynasty.
In the other room?
Nothing like the Silk Road, but it was essentially a bare-bones ability to communicate with a hologram and a translator so that the Egyptians could communicate with the Chinese. This expanded to several other small civilizations building up across the globe. Master Thif spent time in Thebes and in Zhenzhou with Emperor Kang and his brother, because truthfully both the Emperor and his brother had a very good connection with the Force, and it was enough of a connection to warrant them to be welcomed to the Jedi Order. Master Thif was contacted by Jedi Master Satil Shan. She informed Thif that Alderaan fell, but she believed that
it's the
she
cutie
defeated Darth
again.
Malgus,
Oh, yeah,
informing
she
him that the
defeated
Sith
him.
Lord got
Great.
into a fight with her, and she buried him under a mountain. She believed the Republic was reforming.
How
There
intimate
was
was
hope
the
for the
fight?
galaxy, as she asked her fellow Jedi Master for his coordinates so that they could pick
Wait,
him
wait,
up
sounds
and
like a
his
trap.
troops. Thif sent out the coordinates and informed
That
her
sounds like a
of
trap.
everything he'd been through in the last couple of months, filling her in about the civilizations of Earth and with how the right technology they could become a very useful ally in the Republic. While Master Shan had no issue with this, she believed that months away from the war made Master Thif forget the importance of the war that sat on their doorstep. The communication ended abruptly. Thif was rather disappointed. He understood that the war was going to change perception of
Dang, he
individuals,
just got rejected.
because that's what war did, but he didn't expect it to be so negative for the Jedi mindset. He was trying to find positivity in anything he could, and he was a little jarred
just
by
got
the behavior
rejected.
of his friend Shan. Regardless, Master
just got
Thif informed his
rejected.
people across the planet that they would be leaving soon, so that they could join the war against the Sith. They understood, and they began to mount up all their forces and supplies. Except, because of the transmission between Shan and Thif, there was something tragic that would happen. The Sith picked up on the signal and dispatched their fleet to the Copernican star
Dang,
system,
not only
so
did
that
he
they could
get
destroy
rejected,
the
but the
Jedi
Sith
before
caught
Master
on.
Shan got there.
The
Naga surely
The
didn't want
government
another rematch with
was
someone
listening
as
to
vile
his
as
phone
her.
call
For the moment they were going
and
to
went
be
there
at the
to
star
laugh at
system
him.
before the Republic, it wouldn't be long before the skies opened up and from the skies rained down pain for
There's
the
just
people
some
of
weird-looking
Thebes.
TIE fighters.
Master Thif was sent into panic as he mounted up his troops on the rooftops and demanded that they fire at the Sith starfighters. Thif ignited his lightsaber and demanded that Meloni lead the Egyptians to the Nile and get them out of there. She questioned him, but Thif reminded her that the Nile moved south to north. It would get the people away from the civilization, keeping them safe from the possibility of being exposed to the Sith if they tried to move to Heracropolis. It would also allow the Jedi to create a defensive perimeter within the city so that they couldn't hurt individuals that were trying to flee. There weren't a ton of people of the Republic, but they needed to be enough. Because of all the time they spent on Earth, Thith got into contact with multiple civilizations across the planet and informed them to get to their safety locations. It was the best way for them to avoid absolute travesty on this planet. Thith ran through the streets of Thebes, ducking and weaving between people as blaster fire filled the sky and rockets exploded in the streets, wiping out groups of people running away in terror.
Oh my god.
Thith ran to the gates and looked
They went
out.
to beat him
The
up
Sith army
because he
had
got
already landed,
rejected.
and the destroyer
Imagine.
troops were marching upon the city, blasting away, melting the walls of the ancient city. The Jedi moved to the front and ignited their weapons, deflecting the strikes from the Sith army. Republic troopers made their way to the ramparts and fired down, crushing the attacking
Smart.
army. Commander Von Dun rolled up behind Master Thif and told him that T-791 reported the Sith fleet over the planet. They were here to scale a planet-wide destruction and wipe out the
Oh,
entire
that guy looks
population,
cool.
similar to what they tried to do on Alderaan. Thif had a very noticeable fear in his face as he looked back and blocked a blaster bolt behind his head. He told Von Dun that they better hope the Republic gets here soon, because without them, their cause would be lost. Thif ripped his blade around and stepped forward before his men and the men of the Sith army. Malgus could be seen with a robe above his head behind his army.
That looks like a knockoff
Thif told
Vader.
the troops to fall back into the city. They would ambush Malgus from a more defendable position. Thif used the Force to raise the city gates as he turned around and ran full speed into the city. Not long after the gates busted open and the Sith troopers poured in, they would be surprised. Before they could get past the gates, they would run over several buried landmines, blowing their ranks into smithereens. Malgus growled as he cut through the wounded with his lightsaber, killing them all, and encouraging the rest
Killing
of
his
his men
own
to
men,
stammer forward
wow.
until they crushed the Jedi. The Sith troopers piled into the corridors, blasting away with firepower. When they saw Republic troopers, they started shooting at them. Dozens of Republic troopers fell to the ground, dying out in the dust. As the Sith troopers came up, they realized that they killed scarecrows.
Wow,
And before they could
imagine.
adjust their position, they were blasted to the ground by the Republic troopers that were outmatched and outnumbered. Master Thif leapt forward and cut through the Sith assassins. Thif called out through his comlink, asking
He just
for his
killing his
Padawan
own allies.
and asking if
What
she
the
was all
hell?
right. Maloney came running around the corner, deflecting blaster fire from behind her. Commander Von Dun ducked behind a crate as Thif pulled his Padawan to the side and caught a blade of a Sith Marauder and threw him to the side. Another Marauder swung viciously at Thif. The Jedi Master kicked his leg forward with his metal boot as he shattered the leg of the Marauder. Fifth
Ow.
turned around, cutting down one of the Sith before swinging back and slicing through the next. Fifth helped Malone up and directed
So
her
many
and Commander
Sith.
Vonda to the nearby building. They moved to the roof of the building and got a look of the city. They could see a good portion of the city. It was under fire, but currently the Republic troopers and the Sith troopers were fighting in the streets. The Republic was still holding on. The Jedi and the Sith fought each other, and the sounds of the battle echoed throughout the city corridors. Fifth called out to T-791 and asked if the Republic was in orbit. The little droid reported that the Republic fleet had just come out of hyperspace, and they were currently engaging the Sith. Fifth knew that Malgus would retreat, so that he didn't get trapped. Fifth then turned around and saw Malgus walking through the battle,
Who's
killing
she?
Republic troopers and his own men as he
She's
made his way
cute.
back to his shuttle. He was informed that the Republic was here. It wasn't that Malgus was afraid of the
Hey, look,
Republic,
Maul.
he'd just rather fight the Republic on his own terms, and currently he was in gridline with the Republic on the ground, and didn't need to risk his fleet being destroyed. Fifth jumped across the building as Maloney followed her
gosh.
master. Commander Von Dun looked
Excuse
at them
me.
and told 91 that they needed to back up the rest of the men on the ground. Malgus crossed out of the Gate of Thieves as fires burned behind him, and the sound of explosions rattled the ground. Fifth leapt through the tiny gate and heard his apprentice behind him as he turned around asking her to stop what she was doing. Before she could rebuttal, a lightsaber flew up at him, and Maloney pushed her master to the side and blocked the thrown blade of Malgus. Of course, Maloney was ready for this. She was almost a Jedi Knight before the temple fell. She jumped down to the ground and looked at Malgus. He was a warrior of the Sith, one of the best they'd ever had up until this point. Malgus pulled his lightsaber back and stepped forward, and Maloney ripped her blade forward, swinging at the Sith Lord. He backpedaled, blocking every strike by her. Fifth leapt down to help a student as she swung around and parried every strike made by Malgus. He looked over and backhanded her, throwing her to the ground as Master Fifth rolled up with his elbow, throwing it into Malgus's mask, jarring the breathing apparatus loose and swinging at him ferociously. Malgus's mask began to scream as air flooded the pipes. Malgus held his hand out, blocking
You have to
strikes
wear a
while he tried to
mask
piece it
and
back
6
together.
feet.
Fifth got more and more
Jeez.
aggressive, less of the Jedi way, more of the Sith, pushing back the Sith warrior. Malgus tumbled to the ground.
We know you're hovering over that button.
Not another
We
ad.
need your help. We have a better button. We promise. Right.
The Jedi Council member held his blade forward before he heard the ignition of several more lightsabers. The Sith assassins and marauders were here. Fifth turned around and saw Maloney facing
gonna
them.
get beaten up.
Malgus grinned under the mask as he turned around and stood up, walking back towards his personal shuttle and retreating into space and departing from the Copernican system. Maloney
You're gonna
and
beat
Fifth
up
stood
some
their
guy
ground
just to
as the
walk
Sith
away
ran at
like a
them.
coward while your
Sadly,
friends beat him
Malgus
up.
escaped, but they needed to fight their way out of this. The fighting inside the city died down, and silence filled the air. The desert could only hear the burning of lightsabers as they collided in the fury of the desert sands. Fifth and Maloney bounced off of each other, using their lightsaber bond as master and apprentice to beat back the Sith. Commander Von Dun heard the commotion and ordered his men forward to assist the Jedi. They cleared up the city, and it was obvious their Jedi generals needed them. The two Jedi worked hard, swinging and parrying, using the best of their strength together. The two of them were able to cut down several Sith before Fifth was jabbed in the back by an assassin.
Ow.
Fifth coughed up and tumbled to the ground, looking at his
He got
apprentice.
beat up.
He realized what had just happened, tossing his lightsaber to his student. She had shock on her face, watching as another Sith swung his blade down on Fifth's neck, decapitating the Jedi Master. Maloney watched. A tear escaped her eye, and she caught the lightsaber, igniting her master's weapon and leaping forward, cutting down the two Sith, killing them nearly immediately. She was quick on her feet, kicking another Sith in the mask before cutting through his robes, killing him. Maloney saw out of the corner of her eyes the Republic troops arriving to assist them, and before she could make any
Is
real
that Talon? Right there. Is that right here? Is that Talon? Wait one moment.
Maloney saw out of the corner of her eyes the Republic
That looks a lot like
troops
Talon.
arriving to assist them, and before she could make any real impact against the remaining Sith, she turned around and looked at
No,
the
wait,
hand of
no,
a
that's
Sith
not
marauder
Talon.
sitting just before her chest. She looked down and choked, dropping her master and her lightsaber. The Sith marauder's soulless mask grabbed her by the throat and twisted her neck, killing her instantly.
Dang,
Commander
gotta
Von
do her
Dun cried
dirty
out
like
as he
that.
ran forward, blasting his pistols. The
Wish
other
she didn't
Republic
take
troopers
something
followed him
else
as
of
they
hers.
moved in to defend their Jedi generals. The few remaining Jedi Knights ran into action to fight off the last of the Sith. The Marauders and the Assassins were very easily outnumbered, and they were shot down, as if they were seated in front of a firing line. Commander Von Dun got to the two Jedi and realized they were both dead. T-791 sat at the gates of Thebes and whimpered, being able to see
Poor
the decapitated
droid.
head of her master lay flat on the ground, without a body next to it. T-791 knew what happened, and she had no one to take care of her now. Von looked over to one of his men and told them to inform Master Shan of their coordinates. At the same time, he ordered another one of the men to get in contact with Emperor Tai Kang. His brother would be coming with them to train with the Jedi. The Republic needed it. Within an hour, the Sith fleet would have fled from Earth into the galaxy, and when Master Shan arrived, she was very saddened to hear of her friend's death. Another issue would be revealed to the Republic. Emperor Tai Kang was apparently dead of a drowning incident, and now was succeeded by his brother, meaning that the brother would not be joining them. Commander Von would inform the people of Thebes that they may not return, and gave them a frequency to contact the Jedi once the war was over. The Republic would leave the ravaged city of Thebes for the Egyptians to clean up. A slight resentment would come from it, but they would also be eternally grateful to Master Thif, who gave his life in servitude to them. They would construct an obelisk in honor, attributed to their Jedi general. Earth would remain silent for decades. While the Jedi and Sith continued their war, eventually the Republic would reach out to them. Being that the planet was so young, with such a young civilization, the Republic believed that it would be their best interest to help include the Copernican system into the Republic, being that the people of Earth had the opportunity to serve the Republic in a positive way. Once the war with the Sith was complete, for the time being, the Republic would firstly invest in the reconstruction of Coruscant, but they would fund resources out to off-worlds affected by the war. Being that Earth was affected by the war, the planet received its first statement of galactic realm. The Republic went in with contractors, translators, and the entire business market of the galaxy, saw Earth as a profit machine, untapped with the potential to be turned into the Alderaan of the Mid-Rim. They saw it not only as a tourist destination, but as a planet with the raw potential to become a political powerhouse in the Mid-Rim. While politicians saw Earth as a great planet to build on and create renewable infrastructure on, the ability to profit off of the few other worlds in the Copernican system was a big interest to many. For example, the Copernican system had 4 gas giants. Because these planets were all a part of the Copernican
Jupiter,
system, they belonged to the
Uranus,
population of
and
Earth.
Saturn.
Businesses would go in, create deals with the people of Earth to profit off of these gas giants, and then they would build multiple Tabana gas refineries on Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, and Jupiter. The Republic saw the Copernican system as a cash cow ready to burst. Mining operators would start to push mining operations on Saturn's rings, the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Mars, the Kuiper belt, and several moons in the Copernican system. On top of that, industrial facilities would be placed on the 2 closest planets to the Copernican system's sun, on Mercury and Venus. It wouldn't take long for the very remote civilizations of Earth to be built into an empire united. Instead of years of fighting, global domination, and years of rivalries that would fade into non-existence, the population of Earth would find a common goal to shoot for. They sought for the stars, and in the meantime, with technological advancements, tens of thousands of years in the future of what they had, they began to search the planet and discovered everything they could find. On the surface, they built massive cities, and the Council of Earth found unison in the Mediterranean and from the Yellow River. The cities that emerged resembled the architecture of Coruscant, yet had the elegance and beauty of those forged on Alderaan. The era of the Old Republic would be capped off with the beginning of the High Republic, an era of which Earth would become the foothold in the Mid-Rim. Leading several systems across the Republic, the people of Earth offered up both some of the galaxy's best politicians and some of the Jedi Order's members. The Copernican system was a cash cow and had no sight of hindering, because the entire system consistently produced galactic credits. After the contract signed and the Old Republic died out with the old businesses, the people on Earth forged new facilities that operated at a faster pace with better AI and more functional operators that worked for only Earth. Their credits jumped up exponentially. During the High Republic, the Copernican system became the site of gold rush for new businesses.
Wow.
With the Copernican system taking its high stand in the galaxy, and with the High Republic looking like it couldn't get any better, the future looked extraordinary for the small blue globe in the galaxy far, far away. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is part 1 of 3 in our story. Again, special thanks Bender Wells, Jonathan Pim.
Part 1 of 3. I thought there were 5. Oh well. Benjamin Wells, Icy Raptor, Mana Studio, Jonathan, Pimped, Daddy Bay, Anakin, Finn. Alright.
Daddy Bane, Icy Raptor, Apollo, Manor Studios, Anakin003, and Flynn Van Seas for supporting the channel. Hit out the licensed videos. I got tons of videos coming out before the new year. If you want to see what else, let me go in the comments. Want to do crossovers? Check out the Twitch community, Discord, and Patreon. There's so many other ways. Let's talk about part 1 of the story in a little bit detail. So all the facts that I listed off, I'm going off of about um, 3,000 years ago. So it'd be about 2100 BC. BC?
Wow.
Yeah, BC. And so that would be the era of the first intermediate dynasty or first intermediate period in Egypt and the Shia dynasty in China. Um,
China.
Emperor Tai Kang is a real individual, and he did get drowned. So I thought that'd be kind of fun to put into the story. I do love my history, and I tried to keep it light on the history part of this video because obviously it's a Star Wars video and it's not a history video, but I wanted it to feel immersive. I wanted you to feel like Earth is actually in Star Wars, and that's what I want to shoot for. So the Old Republic lines up perfectly in this timeline with 21
Am I
BC
in Star Wars
2100
now?
BC Earth, which is why it takes place in ancient Egypt and the first intermediate period, which is right before the all the big pyramids went up and all their great architecture. And I thought that'd be a cool place to start. And I thought that would kind of connect Thebes to Zhengzhou, which was the capital at the time of Emperor Tai Kang. So I wanted Earth to feel like it could be connected, and that's what I wanted to shoot for, is kind of connecting Earth and this boundary of, like, the Jedi come there and they're like, oh, we gotta, hide out for a little bit until we're requested to be a part of the war again. And that's what they do. And then when they're requested to be a part of the war again, by the time they're requested, they've already connected Earth to all the other civilizations. So I didn't want to go too vastly into it, which is why I didn't include, like, Mesopotamia, for example, which I believe Mesopotamia was either before this period. I can't remember. I think it was before. But that's a reason why I didn't include other civilizations. I want to focus on these two in particular because I thought it would be the most interesting, the Shia and the first intermediate period. As for all the characters are original characters. I thought it'd be fun to have original characters for a New Republic story. People that you don't know, with Malgus being the main villain, of course, setting that up for Malgus to kind of show up in Satele Shan, which is the one that fights him in the Hope video. I made some references to that video in this video.
Satele Shan,
that's an
that's
Old
right.
Republic cinematic if you haven't seen that. And then finally, to cap it all off, the ability for Earth to succeed if we all work together. A common goal always makes us stronger. Just look at the space race as a non-divisive topic. Look at the space race. That was really good. We were all focused on going to that one place, and we all put all our resources to going to that one place. So, say we're given this technology that is like maybe like 1,000 years from our future, and we were told, hey, you have all this power, have fun. And instead of hating each other, we decided to be like, oh, we don't need to hate each other, because that's what the whole point of connecting, Thebes to Zhengzhou and all the other ancient cities, because they already connected with each other. They already knew how to talk to each other, and that was the point. They began to kind of start their own United Nations without having like the whole global transport or whole global trade thing, because the Silk Road wasn't a thing yet. So that's kind of what I wanted to shoot for, is like them having this like connection that would allow them to flourish in the future as the future came. So anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this short part 1 of 3. Hope you look forward to the next 2 parts. The 2 thumbnails probably showed up at some point during this outro. Anyways, I love you all, spread the love, and always remember, my friends, may the Force be with you.
Alright, that's it. I guess we're doing more than one part then. Well, if you enjoyed, subscribe, like. Comment down below whether I should do more parts, or if, looky there, there's part 2. But other than that, yep, that's it. Just trying to do something different, because Star Wars is one of my favorite series. If you enjoyed, subscribe, like, all that good jazz, and I'll see you again in the next one. Sayonara.